Hi everyone. As long as you strive to please people, you will never discover your authentic self. With a narc parent or parents, you would have had a lifetime of conditioning to always seek their approval, only to be disappointed time and time again. No doubt you would have felt confused, anxious, frustrated, unloved, and unworthy, and would have always dealt with self-love and self-esteem issues from an early age. Now, if you haven't dealt with these issues, I have no doubt that they would have followed you into adulthood, resulting in many wrong decisions and choices made, and still feeling the hurt of your inner child. No matter at whatever age you are now, it really makes no difference. I don't need a crystal ball to say that if you are listening to me now, you are more than likely to be a product of a narc father or mother, or in my case, winning the unlucky lottery of having both as parents. Please don't get me wrong. If I sound like I don't love them, I still very much do, and would still do anything for them if I had to. But unfortunately, not as much as I would have done before, once I discovered how much damage they've actually inflicted on me and my psyche. I guess no matter what, they still are my parents and have conditioned me so well to never forget what they've done for me all through my growing up years and beyond. In my case, to make matters worse for me and better for them, is the fact that I am a true empath, making me the perfect scapegoat child for narc parents. In this video, my story is mainly focused on my father, who is the worst of the two, and it's really about breaking free from his hold on me and discovering my true, authentic self. To give you a bit of a background information, for as long as I can remember, I was told that I was a mistake. I was basically a product of a disastrous union of two narcs who should never have been together in the first place. But at the time, my dad was a playboy and a rather good-looking one, and my mother was extremely attractive. They are separated now, but not divorced. I was born out of wedlock at a time when society considered illegitimate children bastards. I was told that my birth caused a lot of stress and commotion in both my parents' respective families, to the extent that my poor maternal grandfather ended up vomiting blood from all the stress. Imagine listening to this as a young child. I was told that not only that I was unwanted, but also shown by some of my relatives how unwanted I was when they refused to acknowledge my presence. Imagine how confused I was as a child. So what did I do? I tried harder and harder to get their attention, acceptance, and love, till I was told by one of my aunts who was very close to me not to bother anymore, as I will never get accepted. So already I began to be plagued with self-worth issues, though not knowing at the time how in time those issues would surface throughout my adult life. The situation didn't get better as I was growing up, because I was constantly reminded that whenever a situation went wrong, I would be blamed, that it's because of you, blah, 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 that my life is this way, not because of their choices. No, it was obvious to them that I was the essence of all their problems. They fought like cats and dogs all the time, to the point that I would hear screaming, even when there was no screaming. I would rush out of my room in a panic. I remember a time when they were fighting and my little sister and I were hugging each other and crying. That was how bad it was. So when you grow up with two narcs, even one as a parent, you basically have two choices. You either become a mouse or a rebel, and I became the rebel. I was strong-willed, rebellious, and I felt that I had to fight for survival in my dysfunctional world. If not, I would have never been heard. However, unfortunately for me, as mentioned before, I have always been an empath, the perfect scapegoat child for any narc parent. When I was left to my own devices, I still would be warm, loving, and caring, as those traits came naturally in me, but were obviously not welcome or respected. My childhood was very crappy. And though I do have good memories as well, the bad times unfortunately outweighed the good. My father was quite well off at the time, and fortunately he believed in giving us a good education and was generous with money. But of course, all these would come at a cost. He believed and still believes that we as his children owe him a lot. Therefore, his love and generosity was conditional, as I found out over time. I remember loving him and my mum so much that I would often tell them that I would readily give them my lung, heart, any organs if needed to save their lives. In fact, I would have died for them. But you know what's funny? And what I never thought of? Was that they never questioned why I was saying that. Now, looking back, I realized that they never told me that it was unnecessary or that it was nice that I could think that way. In fact, now I realize that it was taken for granted that, of course, I should give them anything and everything, especially in my father's mind, though not so much for my mother, as the belief system he has is that I owe him. Now, as a mother of two boys, I would have been so touched if they had ever said anything like that to me. But now I realize that only a child who was looking for love and acceptance would have resorted to saying something as extreme as that. Strangely enough, although I grew up obviously with low self-esteem and almost non-existent self-worth, it never showed on the surface, though I made a lot of bad decisions when it came to my love life, especially the choice of my first marriage, as he was a narc himself. Thank God and the universe that I'm happily married to someone who loves me unconditionally now. But in saying that as well, not that I'm ungrateful for his love, and apologies for the colorful language, I now acknowledge to myself that I fucking deserve him, as I know that I am an awesome and lovable individual. But I digress. My purpose in this video is to share with you what happened and how it led to my freedom to discover my true, authentic self. So I do apologize if I have bored you, but I felt that without knowing my background, you wouldn't have understood my journey. So by now you would understand that I'm trying to convey to you that when you are a child of a narc, almost everything given is conditional. To cut a long story short, a few years ago I made the wrong choice of borrowing some money from my father, but was paying him the promised payment every month, without fail. However, after a few years, unfortunately, my husband was made redundant and we went into financial crisis. To top that situation off, my mother had a severe spinal operation and breast cancer, which we had to try to fund. Plus, she needed medication, etc. And with our unstable finances, plus the situation, we were finding it really hard to manage financially. I was trying to give her money along with what I owed my dad as well. And when I couldn't give it to him as I had to prioritize mum, that's when my problems with him started. Recently, it came to a head when I tried to explain our situation to my father. I added on the fact that I had to ensure that our family's survival came first and foremost, as I have two teenage boys who had to eat, had schooling needs, etc. And I was shocked when he told me that it wasn't his problem whether we could survive or not, and that all he wanted was his money. By the way, I know that I owe him, and I'm not saying that he's entirely wrong. But the problem was that he pressured me so much at one time that I gave money to him that we needed and couldn't afford to give. And we had to survive on so little till the next pay came that I couldn't take that chance anymore and always had to have some buffer money to live. So after recovering from my initial shock of him saying that he didn't care, anger began to creep in. And I was so fed up one day that I told him that if he didn't care, well, neither did I. By the way, he lives alone in a very large house. And my sister also helps a lot financially as she is single and has a relatively good job. Thank God for her and her understanding. And I have promised her that I would pay her portion back in time. Anyway, the situation became so bad that a while ago, all he could think of was his money. And by the way, he wanted a certain amount and a smaller amount would just not do. He started to scream over the phone whenever he called, demanding his money like a loan shark. And then when I would try to explain, he would say that he didn't care or use his favorite excuse that there was someone at the gate. It started to become a joke in my family that there always seemed to be someone at the gate at whatever time, during the day or night, as he used that excuse all the time. I still tried and tried to call, to remain in contact, to continue to ask him how he was, and all I got was, "Where is my money?" and "Someone is at the gate," before he would slam the phone down. The second last conversation several months ago, I tried again only for him to pick up the phone to ask me, "What do you want?" in that tone. And I said sadly, "I just called to find out how you were." And he said, no surprises, that there was someone at the gate. The final conversation was me telling him calmly that he was very much loved by me and the kids repeatedly as he continued to ask for his money. And finally, no prizes for guessing again, that someone was at the gate. By that stage, I had come to realization that our relationship had come to nothing but money. And I was so devastated when I put down the phone, I sobbed as if someone had died. My sons saw me sobbing as I called my sis and aunt to relay to them what had happened. They thought that someone had died the way that I was crying. On that night, I felt that my world had ended and that I no longer had a father and that I was disowned. My world as I knew it was crushed into a million pieces. I felt that my whole world had disintegrated, even though I have a husband who dotes on me and great friends, etc., and others whom I knew loved me, including my mother. I was depressed for days. I couldn't even talk about it without crying. All along, I knew from suffering so much that there was something wrong with my parents mentally in relation to the way they loved and how they were as people. Through my own pain since I was a child, I became a natural counselor, a person who people would gravitate to and who could open up to, often telling me their life stories the first time we would meet. I discovered that friends and relatives would talk to me as I could always sense their pain and troubles and always knew how to naturally advise them. I was wise beyond my years and could understand and provide people with relief from my advice, and became what I now understand myself to be, a wounded healer. Then I started to research to understand the topic of narcissism and how narcs think, why they think the way they do, how they are made or created, and about the aging narc as well, which explains everything about my parents. I was obsessed as I went to YouTube and listened to every bit of information on narcissism, from the experiences of victims of narcs, what children of narcs went through, their experiences, and the experts on this subject, and found relief that what I was going through was what others had gone through as well, the scapegoat child, and how and what they thrive on. Once I had a very good understanding of their psyche, everything fell into place. It was as if finally the pieces of the puzzle was discovered and everything made sense. And I realized most of all that it had nothing to do with me and that I was good enough and just made the mistake of seeing myself through their eyes and not my own, nor through the lenses of those who loved me unconditionally. When realization hit, it was like what Oprah would say, an aha moment. And suddenly I felt a heaviness lifting off me, almost like an energy leaving my body. And I felt light and free and was ready to embrace the true me, this time knowing that I was all right and perhaps even awesome. I began to believe that I could do anything and that I could make anything happen and that I was no longer a failure I was no longer subject to their whims and fancy. I was finally free to be me. It was then that I decided that I was worth loving, even though my father felt that I was his biggest disappointment. It didn't matter anymore what he thought or didn't think. I couldn't care less. I realized that I was giving love to someone who didn't really want my love, but was manipulating me as he knew which buttons to push, and that I would react accordingly. Then I realized that the worst experience that I thought I couldn't live through when he rejected me was actually the best gift that the universe could ever give me, and that now I no longer have to be afraid of getting phone calls from him, and that I didn't need his approval or love anymore, as now I can love and approve of myself. So, my dears, I wanted to share my story with you. Although I'm a very private person in normal circumstances, in the hope that if you are going through what I was, or are in a similar situation, that there is hope and there is liberation. It's not you. It was never you. No matter what or who you became, you could never have satisfied them because they don't know how to love unconditionally, as they are insecure in themselves and need someone to need their approval to keep them going. We are their oxygen and their fuel supply. They are sad individuals who can't love and be happy with whatever they have, and you will never be good enough in their eyes, so why even try? The next step is to know how to manage them. So, for me, I've decided with my mother, for instance, that when I call her to chat, which sadly isn't as often anymore, I will listen to her first. And if she is toxic that day, I will politely say that I need to get off the phone. When she is happy and in a good mood, I will spend more time on the phone chatting happily with her. As for my father, I no longer talk to him, but when I do return to my original home country for a visit, if he should start to shout out of the blues or start to press my buttons, I will just either listen to him and say nothing and just grey rock him, never giving him the opportunity again to agitate me to the point of insanity, preferring to walk away instead. The mistake that I made was I always thought that with enough love and communication I could impart some new knowledge into him and that perhaps he might change one day. Now, if you think that narcs can change, I really feel you need to do more research, as people won't change if they think they are right. And narcs always think that they are right. You can never change anyone. You can only change yourself. And you do have a choice of either leaving them or managing them. But a word of advice: limit your time with them, as they will only suck you dry. Finally, I am on my real journey of healing myself and others in the process, thus becoming the wounded healer. I am a qualified counselor and have the gift of insight, which I can only thank them for, as I have become a better person from all my past experiences. I look forward to helping more people, and I will have more subjects and topics of interest in my channel if you are interested in listening to them. So, in conclusion, I hope that my story has helped you to understand that there is a light at the end of the tunnel, and there is hope to be happy. I am no one special, and if the information that I've imparted resonates with you, please like, comment, share, and better still, subscribe. However, if you disagree, by all means, it's your prerogative to. And though I am interested to read comments, I won't be affected by bad comments, as everyone has a different journey. This is my first video, so I guess I can only improve as I go along. I am a qualified counselor, so if you would like to arrange any sessions, please let me know and we can discuss this privately. Thank you so much for listening. I do sincerely hope that I have helped in some way. Bye for now, and blessings to all of you.